Part 3. The Kasbah. Chapter 11. Madame Fatima. Jacques smirked as the woman continued to glare at him. "Nice to see you too, Fatima," he said. "Well," Fatima snapped, "what are you doing here? We need a place to stay. Why? Is someone after you?" Jacques hesitated. "They aren't they?" said Fatima, eyes narrowing in suspicion. "And who is he?" I felt a shiver as that piercing gaze fell upon me. "My nephew," said Jacques. "Joined the crew last month. Is there a— How old is he? 10? 12, actually," I started. "You don't bring children here, you know that," said Fatima. "And anyway, you're not welcome here, or your crew, not after what they did to my girls." "I'm not here for that," said Jacques. "I need a room for a few days, a week at most, and a place at the table. Is there a game on tonight?" "Maybe there is, maybe there isn't," said Fatima. "Can you pay?" Jacques' silence was answered by a smug smirk. "I thought not," she scoffed. "I'm not a charity. You can't show up filthy and dripping wet with nothing in your pockets. Find somewhere else to hole up." With that, Fatima retreated and started to shut the door. "Wait," said Jacques, blocking the door with his foot. He reached into his tunic and produced a small metal flask, which he handed to Fatima. She immediately tossed it to the ground. "Who do you think I am?" she said indignantly. But before she could retreat, Jacques retrieved the flask and poured it out on the ground. "It's solid silver," he said. "That should pay for the room and the buy-in." Fatima paused in the doorway and eyed Jacques for a long moment. "All right," she said at last. "But one complaint from the girls and you're out, understand?" I watched in astonishment as the scene played out. Aboard Richelieu, Jacques feared no man, not even the captain. I had seen him nearly slit his messmates' throats and knock out trained soldiers without hesitation, yet here he was, squirming and groveling before this woman like a schoolboy. The negotiations complete, Fatima opened the door and beckoned us through, and once more I was transported to a strange new world. The door opened into an octagonal lobby bathed in a crimson glow by ornate hammered tin lanterns. Patterned tapestries and carpets lined every surface, and the air was thick and sweet with incense, weaving a warm, intoxicating atmosphere. For a moment I found myself back in Mother's parlour in London, playing by the hearth in much happier times. As my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I saw a dozen young women laying about the room, lounging on velvet cushions and eating from silver trays laid out on the floor. Having seldom been in the company of women, they were as exotic a sight as any I had encountered since stepping ashore. All had the same olive skin and bewitching almond eyes as Fatima, and the sheer silks that draped their bodies left little to the imagination. As we crossed the room, one of them suddenly rose to her feet. "What is he doing here?" she said, pointing accusingly at Jacques. "Don't worry," said Fatima, "he won't touch any of you." "And him?" said the young woman. "His first time?" I gaped as she flashed me a beguiling smile. "No," said Fatima, "they're just renting a room." The woman shrugged and returned to her lounging as Fatima led us deeper into the building. Halfway down a dimly lit corridor, she stopped and unbolted a door, revealing a small bedroom with cracked plaster walls, an old mattress, and a bare bulb hanging on a wire. "I see my money goes far here," said Jacques. "Better than a dog like you deserves," Fatima snapped back. "Where's the game being held?" "In the back, as usual," said Fatima. "And don't forget, my take is 30%. "What?" said Jacques. "Last time it was 15. "For you it is 30, said Fatima. "Or would you rather sleep on the street where the Guardia can pick you up?" Jacques scowled. "Give me your master key in 1 hour," he said, pointing to Fatima's key ring, "and you can make it 40. "No," said Fatima, "I have a reputation to maintain." 50 then. 70. 60. 70, Fatima insisted, "or you're going to have to use some actual skill." Jacques clenched his fist, fire flashing in his eyes, but once again he relented. "Fine," he grunted. Smirking, Fatima removed the key from her ring. "I hope whatever you have planned works," she said. "I'm sure the Guardia has a nice big price on your head, and I've been meaning to expand this place." Defeated, Jacques sighed and slipped the key into his pocket. "Well," he said, "now that you own my soul, can we at least get some fresh clothes and some food? And send for a tailor." "Why?" said Fatima. "That's such a fitting look for you." With a wry smile, she turned on her heel and floated back up the corridor. "I'll see what I can do," she called behind her. "The game starts at 7. "That woman," Jacques grunted as he started stripping off his tunic. A few minutes later, 3 girls arrived carrying a wash basin, a bundle of fresh clothes, and a tray of tea and food. It was a relief to trade in those clammy woolen rags for something more suited to the climate, in this case a loose robe and trousers of light cotton and a pair of those ubiquitous leather slippers. Why my countrymen and their continental brethren insist on going about in heavy wool and linen, I shall never understand. Mad dogs and Englishmen and all that, I suppose. The moment he finished dressing, Jacques hastened me out of the room and down the corridor to a small parlour with a round table and 4 chairs. Jacques squatted until his eyes were level with the table and began shuffling along its perimeter, examining it from every conceivable angle. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Quiet!" Jacques snapped. I waited in silence as he completed his survey. "Yes," he muttered, striding from the room. "Yes, that should work." With Fatima's key, he unlocked the room next door, a far more well-appointed apartment with a large overstuffed bed, ornate wall hangings, and a wooden wardrobe. As I watched, he pulled the wardrobe away from the wall and with a penknife began prying away its back panel. "What are— Not now!" With a loud snap, the panel came free. Jacques slid this under the bed, then pushed the wardrobe across the room and up against the opposite wall. Once it was in place, he opened the doors and began attacking the wall with his knife, chunks of plaster and wooden lath raining down as he hacked away. Within minutes he had carved out a hole perhaps 3 feet square, exposing a second layer of lath beyond. But rather than demolish this, he inserted his blade between the 2 laths and gently tapped on the pommel, cutting a thin slit in the plaster. "Sit here," he said. Dutifully I crawled into the wardrobe and peered through the slit, which looked into the room with the table and chairs. Jacques had cut it just above the sideboard, the view framed by a pair of silver teapots. It was the perfect spy hole. If one didn't know it was there, they would never have spotted it. Jacques shut the wardrobe doors and a moment later appeared on the other side of the wall. He sat down at the table, facing away from me, and held up a hand of playing cards. "Can you read these?" he asked. "Yes." "How clearly?" Very." Jacques shifted over to the next chair. "And now?" "Yes, just about." Once again Jacques rose and took a seat at the far chair, facing me across the table. Under the table I saw him bend his leg so his foot rested against the steam radiator behind him. "Hit the pipe," he said. "The pipe?" "The pipe," Jacques repeated, "below you." Glancing down, I saw a black iron steam pipe running through the wall by my knees. It was cold to the touch, but to spare my knuckles I used a piece of plaster to tap out a string of Morse. "Good," said Jacques. "Good, yes. A bit quieter." I lightened my touch, sending the faintest ripples ringing down the pipe. "Perfect," he said, rising from his chair. "Do it like that." He soon reappeared in the bedroom and opened the wardrobe doors. "If I touch my chin," he said, "it means I understood the message. If I touch my cheek, it means send it again. Understand?" I nodded eagerly. "Now make yourself comfortable," said Jacques, handing me 2 pillows from the bed. "Like Fatima said, the game starts at 7. Be ready." After handing me the tray of tea and food, Jacques started to close the wardrobe doors. In his hand he held a small metal object, which I suddenly recognized as a padlock. "Wait!" I cried, stopping the door with my foot. "What are you doing?" "We can't have anybody opening the door and finding you," Jacques explained. "But can't I come in later? Just before the game?" "No," said Jacques. "They will be using this room. You'll have to stay here." Jacques forced the door shut and snapped the lock in place, trapping me inside. I heard his footsteps leave the room and disappear up the corridor. When the shock of my sudden imprisonment had faded, I set about making my hiding place as comfortable as possible for the 8-hour wait ahead, sweeping the plaster chunks and dust into the wall and arranging the pillows into a plush seat. Though cramped and airless, the wardrobe likely paled in comparison to whatever sweltering dungeon the crew was currently rotting away in. Whatever Jacques planned to free them, I would do my utmost to ensure its success. I owed them that much. Not having eaten since the evening before, I tucked into the meal Jacques had left for me. The tray held a silver teapot and a strange earthenware vessel with a conical lid, which when lifted revealed a sort of thick stew of meat and vegetables served on a bed of grain. Compared to the stews on Belle Rock and the Richelieu, it was a revelation, spicy and savory and 1,000 other things I had not the words to describe. I devoured it with relish, washing it down with more of that sweet, refreshing tea. But on finishing the meal, I suddenly realized I should have savored it for longer, for 7.5 hours still remained until the start of the game. My first thought was to sleep through them, but without an alarm clock I could not be certain of waking on time, so I simply leaned back against the wall and waited. I was not alone with my thoughts for long, for I soon heard voices approaching down the corridor. I pressed my eye to a crack in the wardrobe door just as one of the girls from the lobby came stumbling into the room, pursued by a khaki-clad Spanish soldier. He pounced upon her like an animal, tearing at her clothes as they tumbled to the floor. "You're keeping your hat on?" she giggled in Spanish, playfully plucking the tricorn from his head and placing it on hers. "Doing a bit of scouting, are we?" "Quiet, puta!" the soldier snarled, clapping his hands over the girl's mouth. "Not paying you to talk." With his other hand he fumbled with his belt as the girl's eyes grew wide with terror. I won't describe what happened next. Even now it is almost too awful to think of. As I looked on in horror and disgust, every fiber of my being compelled me to burst from that wardrobe, to rush to that poor girl's aid. But I could not. It would give away the game, and goodness knew what Jacques would do to me then. So I stayed put, eyes shut and hands clapped over my ears until all I could hear were the soldiers' rattling snores. But the woman's muffled screams rang in my ears for much longer. After many long, dull hours, that eerie wailing in the distance announced the stroke of 7, and I took up my post at the spy hole. Jacques was the first to arrive, taking a seat at the head of the table. As he placed his foot against the radiator, I rattled off a brief string of Morse to signal my readiness. Though shaken by what I had just witnessed, I was glad to be back in my element. Jacques was soon joined by another man, a short, wiry Moroccan with a thin chin-strap beard and furtive, nervous eyes. The two men sat in silence, the only sound the slapping of cards as Jacques shuffled the deck over and over. After a few minutes, another man entered, this time a gaunt colonial in a crisp linen suit. His rough companions eyed him suspiciously as he took his seat and waited in silence for the fourth player to arrive. Behind me I heard a snort and a loud thud, and through the wardrobe door saw the soldier hastily pulling on his uniform, cursing under his breath as he fumbled with the buttons. I whirled around and frantically tapped on the steam pipe. SOS, soldat! But it was too late. The soldier had already appeared in the parlor doorway. Yet Jacques did not react as the soldier took his place at the table, his broad back filling my view through the spy hole. He simply laid down his cards and rang a small bell sitting on the table, summoning 3 women to the room. The first laid a tall glass smoking pipe at each man's feet. The second served drinks, whiskey for Jacques and the soldier, wine for the colonial, and tea for the Moroccan, while the third carried a tray of notes and coins which she meted out among the players. Then they silently filed out, leaving the 4 men alone. As Jacques resumed shuffling the cards, the Moroccan put the wand of his pipe to his lips and took a deep draught, the glass body on the floor making a low, gurgling sound. "You are lucky today," he said to the soldier, blowing smoke from his mouth and nostrils like a dragon. "Whatever the outcome, you'll take home a prize." "What's that?" said the soldier. The Moroccan grinned mischievously. "Is that not your ship in the harbor?" he said, turning to Jacques. "The one crawling with soldiers?" "What of it?" Jacques grunted. "I'm just surprised to see you here," said the Moroccan, "when all your shipmates are locked up in the citadel. I wager there's a pretty price on your head." "Jacques l'Argenté," said the soldier with a menacing chuckle. "It's worse than that. He's wanted for murder, of a soldier no less." Jacques' hands suddenly ceased their shuffling. "Someone you knew?" said the colonial. "No," said the soldier, some wet behind the ears marine, let his head get bashed in with his own rifle, the stupid bastard. "Isn't that right?" Jacques said nothing. Below the table I saw him reach for his knife. "How much are they offering?" said the colonial. 5,000 pesetas. "Well, what are we all sitting here for?" said the Moroccan. "We can split the bounty 3 ways. The soldier shook his head. "Don't bother. Barra's too greedy to waste a reward on the likes of him. If I turned him in, he'd say I was just doing my regular duty. And the 2 of you, he'd lock you up on sight. No, he just wants the satisfaction of pulling his fingernails out one by one." The knife was drawn and aimed at the Moroccan's ribs when the soldier suddenly turned to Jacques. "Relax, Seigneur Moineau," he said, "and deal those cards." Jacques hesitated for a moment, his narrowed eyes flitting to each man in turn, before slipping the knife back into his clothes. He then reached for the deck and dealt each man 1 card. The hour of action was upon us. "Now the real money, I hear," said the colonial, "is in the Sutherland boy." The Moroccan cocked his head. "The Sutherland boy?" "Son of the English consul," the colonial explained. "Went missing 3 weeks ago. His father is offering a reward of 100,000 pesetas." Jacques gave a low whistle. "I'm surprised you Morphelus haven't turned the town inside out." "Oh, we have," said the soldier, "but we haven't found him." "Sounds like your lot's handiwork," said the colonial to the Moroccan. 100,000 pesetas could buy a lot of arms. "Ed Krim has no time for such trifles," the Moroccan scoffed. "He's too busy slaughtering legioneros by the thousands." The soldier shot him a murderous glare. "Must be Rassouli then," said the colonial. "That's certainly his style. Remember that business with Peticaris back in '04? El Krim, Rassouli doesn't matter," the soldier growled. "We've got a surprise in store for you all. Put all you savages back in your place. Now bet." As the players examined their cards, I quickly tapped them out through the pipe. On cue, Jacques touched his chin. The game was on. Play, said the Moroccan, tossing some coins into the pot. Jacques dealt him another card. The other two followed suit. Their new cards were swiftly relayed down the pipe to Jacques, who pushed a large stack of coins to the middle of the table. Double, he said. Desperate, are we? Said the Moroccan. Understandable. If Barrow doesn't get you, El Crime will. Desperate men make the best opponents, said the soldier. Call. I call as well, said the colonial. After the last coins fell on the table, the men revealed their cards. Prime, said the Moroccan. 5, said the colonial. Tricon, the soldier triumphantly announced. Jacques said nothing, his cards still hidden. Come on, said the soldier impatiently. Get on with it. Desperate, said Jacques, smirking at the soldier. But not stupid. He flipped his cards. Double, he said, leaning forward to rake in the pot. Behind the wall, I grinned ear to ear. The game carried on for hours, fueled by an endless stream of liquor and tobacco until the table was piled high with glasses and bottles and a ceiling of blue haze hung over the room. As hand after hand was played, I slowly pieced together the rules and subtleties of the game, until I was sending not only cards but strategies ringing down the pipe. All was going well, Jacques' stack of notes and coins growing steadily taller, until a blunder some 2 hours in nearly gave the game away. The cards had just been dealt, and the others were holding trifles, barely 20 single points between them. Jacques couldn't lose. Yet when the betting went round the table, Jacques hesitated, glancing at his cards and frowning. Jouer, I tapped out. But to my shock, Jacques sighed, shook his head, and made to throw his cards on the table. No, I frantically tapped. Continue. What was that? Said the soldier, his head jerking up. I froze. What was what? Said the colonial. The soldier swiveled in his chair. You didn't hear that? He said. That tapping sound, it sounded like... He jerked his head around, sniffing the air like some giant rat. For an instant his gaze met mine through the spy hole, and I felt my blood run cold. Like what? Said the colonial. Like... said the soldier, rising from his chair. It's just the pipe, said Jacques, kicking the radiator behind him. This boiler's as old as Methuselah. The soldier grunted, sinking back into his seat. Only when he turned back to face the others did I start to breathe again. As the game carried on into the night, I realized my mistake. Jacques couldn't win every hand. It would raise too much suspicion. So he carried on sacrificing the occasional hand, massively throwing his opponents off the scent. It was nearly midnight when, eyes lolling from exhaustion and drink, he reached for the bell on the table. Gentlemen, he said, stiffly rising as a girl entered with a tray. A pleasure as always. Grabbing fistfuls of cash with both hands, he began transferring his winnings to the tray, when suddenly a loud click rang out. The soldier had drawn a pistol. Sit down, he said tersely. No need to be a sore loser, Jacques scoffed, just because your comrades keep being slaughtered by little brown savages. Sit down, the soldier hissed. And you, he said, waving his pistol at the girl, shut the door. Trembling, she nodded weakly and closed the door behind her. Fatima won't stand for this, said Jacques. I don't give a damn what the old puta stands for, the soldier snapped. You forget who makes the rules in this town. One word from me and she'll be swinging from a scaffold before dawn. After our boys have a little fun with her, of course. So, he continued, turning to the Moroccan and the colonial, do your offers still stand? Turn him in? Split the pot and the reward? Or did he offer you more? I don't know what the colonial protested. Quiet! Across the table, Jacques gave a drunken guffaw. So this is what the Honorable Guardia has come to. At least we have the decency to play fair for our take. We'll see about that, said the soldier. You two, turn around. Hands where I can see them. What are you, said the Moroccan, but at the wave of the soldier's pistol he fell silent and turned to face the wall, leaving Jacques and the soldier facing each other across the table. Now deal, said the soldier. From the wardrobe I watched with mounting dread, knuckles poised over the pipe as I waited for the soldier to reveal his cards. But suddenly Jacques raised his finger to his cheek and tapped it over and over again. The signal was clear. The soldier was too suspicious. Jacques was playing him fair and square. Now let's see how clever you are, said the soldier. Play. You haven't called stakes, said Jacques. All of it, of course, said the soldier. Plus your head. Even if I can't get the reward, I'm curious to see how you'll look without your skin. Jacques could only glare defiantly as he dealt the cards. You, said the soldier to the girl by the door. Don't just stand there, come join us. We'll be easier on the eyes than staring at this drowned rat all evening. The girl shook her head, frozen in place, but the soldier lunged forward and seized her arm. I said, come, he growled, wrenching her away from the door. Stumbling, she fell and landed across the sideboard, sending a shower of plaster dust raining down inside the wall. I held my breath as the cloud billowed across my face, but it was too late. An itch began to claw at my nose. No, I thought, screwing my face as I fought the mounting urge. But it soon became unbearable, and I clapped my hand over my face as the sneeze burst through. The soldier's head snapped around. I knew it, he snarled, springing from the chair. I scrambled back until I came up against the wardrobe doors, then kicked desperately against the wall. But while the doors creaked and splintered, they held fast. I was trapped. A shadow fell across the spy hole, and I found myself staring into the soldier's cruel eyes and down the barrel of his pistol. I did not see Jacques lunge, nor the knife flash. All I remember is the thin red line which suddenly appeared across the soldier's neck, and the torrent of blood unfurling down his chest like a crimson scarf. He made an awful gurgling sound, his eyes wide with surprise and terror, before keeling forward and crashing through the wall. His head landed in my lap, gasping and twitching as blood spilled in ragged spurts onto my shirt, until finally falling still, his awful dead eyes staring straight into mine. The two other men scrambled for the door, but Jacques snatched the pistol from the floor, whirled around, and fired 4 shots. As the men fell dead, the girl collapsed into the corner, shrieking. Suddenly a clatter of footsteps came thundering down the hall, and Madame Fatima burst into the room, eyes burning with hellfire. "What in God's name have you done?" she bellowed. "Cleaning up this cesspool of yours," said Jacques, shrugging as he slipped the pistol into his pocket. He was answered with a sharp blow across his face. "Do you realize what you've done?" Fatima cried. "This place, my girls, they'll shut it down, burn it to the ground, and hang us all for good measure. No, I knew letting you in was a mistake." "Me?" said Jacques. "You're the one letting the Guardia crawl all over this place." "What choice do I have?" said Fatima. "Do you have any idea how many compromises I have to make to keep this place in business? How many sacrifices? No, I'm calling the Guardia. If you leave now, you might get away. God help you after that." "No, you won't," said Jacques. "What did you say?" said Fatima, halting in the doorway. "You won't," said Jacques, "or else I'll tell them about your rebel friends." For a split second, Fatima's eyes widened with fear. "I don't know what you mean," she said, but a quiver in her voice betrayed her. "Abdul here," said Jacques, kicking the Moroccan's corpse. "I've done business with him. He's one of El-Krim's men. He wouldn't come here unless he knew he was safe, that he was among friends." A dozen emotions flashed across Fatima's weathered features, fear, rage, indignation, and finally pure malice. But she said nothing, her murderous glare belying her grunt of reluctant acceptance. "So unless you want to share the gallows with me," said Jacques, "you'd best get someone with a donkey and a cart right away. I'll throw them all in the harbour. They'll think El-Krim's men did it." "You've done enough for one evening," said Fatima. "I'll take care of it myself. Now get out of here. Go sleep somewhere else. Go to your room. I don't care. Just get out." Without another room, Jacques swept the cash from the table onto the tray and made for the door. But Fatima blocked his path. "Leave it," she said. "We agreed. 70%. "Take it up with the Guardia," said Jacques, flashing a cruel smirk as he pushed past her. "I'm willing to die for what I believe in," said Fatima. "Are you?" Jacques stopped in his tracks. After a long moment, he set the tray down, grabbed a few notes and coins, and lumbered off down the corridor. It was not until Fatima was alone, surveying the mess around her, that she spotted me cowering in the wardrobe. "Bismillah," she sighed wearily. "What has he gotten you into? Come on, you can come out." I rolled the soldier's bloody head off my lap and crawled out from behind the wall. Though somewhat shaken, I was otherwise unscathed. Looking down at my blood-stained clothes, I could not help but laugh. Once more I had come within a hair's breadth of death, and once more I had escaped. In that moment all thoughts of Jonah and curses vanished from my mind. Fatima looked me up and down, shaking her head in disgust. "What a mess," she said. "Come on, let's get you cleaned up." Fatima led me to her bedroom, where her girls brought in a small metal tub, and I enjoyed the first hot bath in many long years. "You may use my bed if you wish," said Fatima, laying out a fresh bundle of clothes for me. "I have many things to take care of. Ring the bell if you need anything. My girls will take care of you." "Thank you," I said, and Fatima gave a curt nod before floating away down the corridor. As I sank into the bath's warm embrace, all the fears and worries and confusion of the day seemed to melt away. Though I was still a wanted man, stranded in a foreign land with no idea how I would escape, all that could wait until morning. For now, at least, I was safe.